Hey guys, it's Tommy with Studio Sense. Welcome back to my channel. If you're like me, you lost an hour, you might be running a little bit behind, and you're thinking to yourself, what blue fragrance can I use today that can benefit me? Well, I've got 5 options for you, and these all fit the blue category. You may be asking yourself, what is a blue fragrance? Well, not only are they blue in color, but blue fragrances typically feature, as I'm going to show right up here, the definition, typically feature aquatic notes. They can sometimes be called watery notes or sea notes, or sometimes ozonic or ozone notes. So these are notes that can't necessarily be extracted from an oil. You can't go to the sea and extract, oh, sea oil. You can think of like seaweed or sea brine or things of that nature that are associated, and yes, sometimes those are used in notes. Remember when I talked about Periellis the other day that has sea notes or seaweed in it? They take aroma chemical and they take some of that salty, that sea-like or aquatic sensation feel, imbibe it and imbue it into an aroma chemical and use that, and that's where the sea notes and the water notes, the watery notes come from, and usually referred to as aqua, water, sea, brine, and or ozone or ozonic. So basically, now that you know where we're coming from, let's go ahead and talk about those 5 blue fragrances and what they can do for you coming up next. All right guys, welcome back. The first feature fragrance in our 5 blue fragrances that we're going to be talking about today is the very well-known Versace Dylan Blue. Now, Versace Dylan Blue, I'll go ahead and cut straight through to some of the buzz back. There's a lot of buzz about, reformulation. It's not the banger that it used to be. What batch are you using? I'm not going to talk about any of that. And the reason that I'm definitely not discrediting those who have theories about, variations in batches and reformulations and things like that. It's just that honestly, no matter what bottle you pick up of Versace Dylan Blue, it's still going to be Versace Dylan Blue. Right? It's almost like saying, don't get the 2016 Hyundai Veloster, get the 2019 Hyundai Veloster. It's a nicer, better car. Yeah, but won't they both get you from point A to point B in a slight variation in comfort and speed? One may have turbo, one may not. I mean, they both may have turbo. You can go on and on with that type of argument. I kind of think there's kind of a philosophy in the human development field, and that is, if you have too few ways things can be right and too many ways things can be wrong, you'll always suffer a happiness deficit, right? What that means is there's so many ways things can go wrong, you'll never be happy. You'll always be looking at why something is wrong instead of what's right with it. The better question is not what's wrong with this, but what's right with it. Today we're going to be talking about what's right with Versace Dylan Blue. Now this fragrance is so aromatic. It's got such a nice blue, stable DNA profile. It features notes of watery notes, as we mentioned before. It's got grapefruit, bergamot. It's got a really nice fig note in it. Papyrus, patchouli, pepper, ambroxan, musk, incense, tonka, and a really nice saffron too. So you've got a really nice heady mixture of watery notes, floral notes, fruits, and citruses in there. And this mix does contribute to making this a banger. And when I say a banger usually is in a reference to it being very, very good. It's making a lot of noise. It's agreeing, yes. A very good in projection and longevity. Now, some people say this doesn't have the projection that it used to or the longevity that it used to. And I posit this: what's changed about you? What's changed about your habits? What's changed about your body chemistry? Because this has always worked for me, and it always has given its best. I get at least 7 to 8 or more hours of longevity off of this. I get a really good scent trail with this, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing. On the basketball court, when I'm playing basketball, everyone can smell this, all of the guys. And I get a lot of compliments. This is a compliment getter, compliment puller. Versace Dylan Blue, number 1. And this isn't any like a countdown order. This is just my first number 1. But if it were a countdown order, probably would still be my number 1. Second up might be a surprise to you, but this is a very well received by the community of people who own this fragrance and myself, and that is Kenneth Cole Blue. This is a very, very simplistic scent profile. You've got a nice amalgamation or mix of citruses. You've got amber, you've got cedar, and you have some C notes, right? C notes, aroma chemical that is mimicking sea, like salt spray, sea spray notes in this, and that is what you get. Now, one thing about this fragrance right here, it does have, it's so good. It has a very, very blue feeling and sensation. It's interesting, if you spray it in the air and blow it towards you, it's literally like you just stepped out onto a pier out on South Miami Beach, and you're smelling that fresh, you can hear the seagulls in the background, and you get that fresh sea breeze, that oceanic smell, sensation, a little bit salty, a little bit briny, but very bright, right? Very bright. So this airs on the side of a very, very bright, crisp, oceanic blue. This to me gets a really good scent trail, so I get probably about 3 to 4 hours projection on this. That is really good for a blue fragrance. Blue fragrances tend to be a little bit more subtle. This guy is somewhat more aggressive, at least for me anyway, and I get about 7 to 8 hours longevity off of this. Now, some people may comment in forums that it doesn't do that great, but again, what's different about your habits? Are you using it in heat? Heat activated fragrances like this also do really, really well in heat. Kenneth Cole Blue is no exception, does really good in heat. The simplistic scent profile allows it to be layered. You can actually use Versace Dylan Blue. I wouldn't hesitate to use this with this. They do layer really well because most blue fragrances will work pretty good without conflict, you know, conflicting one with the other, with conflicting notes in them. I've successfully layered Kenneth Cole Blue. So my number 2 blue fragrance that'll work really well for you in spring and summer. My number 3 fragrance might come as a surprise for you, and that is Alfred Dunhill Blue Desire, called Blue Desire. And you might remember the Alfred Dunhill Project Red Desire. This is the blue version. Now, what I really like about this fragrance is it is very soft and it is very seductive, but it does have the watery notes, so you do get that blue, freshy, almost semi-shower gel freshness out of this. But what I like about this is it's almost like lighting your favorite candle. Now, I had a fragrance haul when I first got this, and I did describe this as almost like a candle scent. But the more I wear this, it is a lot stronger than just a standard candle. A lot of times when you light a candle in the room, you get that first burgeoning open as the wick is melted into the wax, that first brisk wax melting down, and you get that candle smell. But then you get used to it, and after a while you can't even smell it. This is not like this. This is a freshie that keeps on refreshing. It has a really good projection on me, and I've been wearing it for a while now, and it does give me about 7 to 8 hours in projection. Now, this is unusual. One unusual feature of all of these that I'm featuring today is that they do have really good projection. A lot of challenges for blue fragrances is that they're kind of like Versace Eau Fraiche is a really good blue fragrance. It doesn't give me that heady longevity though that I'm looking for, like all of these do. Now, Alfred Dunhill Blue Desire is very economical. You can get this pretty much any online discounter. Gosh, probably less than $30, I would say, or just over 30. Do like the bottle design. It's pretty neat. It's got that flask opening where you're not going to lose the lid, and the atomizer works really well. Another fragrance that you can spray relatively effusively without worrying about overspraying. But again, it is really good projection. You'll create that really nice, fresh, brisk blue sillage trail. You do have mandarin. You've got some nice citruses in this with bergamot. You've got mandarin. You've got lime. A nice, bright, fresh summertime lime. A little bit of floral with lotus. You've got Brazilian rosewood. You've got tonka, amber, musk, and benzoin, which gives it that warm, kind of semi-sweet, candle-like sensation. owing to the benzoin in this. So another great blue alternative for this spring and summer is Alfred Dunhill's Blue Desire. Awesome fragrance. Highly recommend. Up next, my fourth blue fragrance that I highly recommend for spring and summer is also a banger, and it is Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue Eau Intense. This fragrance I really enjoy. It has such a nice, first of all, I am a huge proponent of apple in fragrance. That's one reason I really enjoy fragrances that aren't super popular that feature apple notes in a really bright green way, such as Kenneth Cole's Reaction, which I will do a full-on review of. I've only done a first impressions of. Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue is no slouch when it comes to the apple note. You got Granny Smith Green Apple, which is really bright, it's really green and fresh. It is a perfect spring introduction into spring and summer. It also has a nice floral basket in there with marigold and jasmine, giving it a kind of a softer, sensuous blue. So you've got that bright green, you've got the floral that makes it a little bit more softer and subdued, but introduces a longer lasting base of musk and amber. So you've got lemon, you've got marigold, jasmine, musk, and amber infused within this. Now this fragrance, it would seem like with those notes that it might not be quite as long lasting, but that's why I call it a banger. With this, I get awesome projection, great longevity. Really all you need of this are 2 sprays somewhere in the crook of your elbow there, because you have constant movement, creating a nice sillage trail. If you're wearing shorts, on the back of your knee, somewhere on your collarbone or clavicle. Be very careful though what spraying around your neck, because a lot of times you spray in here, you're constantly getting that fragrance right up your nose, and you can go slightly anosmic or scent confusion, and you might think, wow, nobody can smell this on me, and you spray more and you end up overspraying, and you choke people out around you, and that's the last thing you want to do. It kind of gives people a negative experience with your fragrance, and you want it to be a positive experience. So less is better. You can always spray more, but you can't take more off, right? You can't do less after you've already oversprayed. So be careful of these, and actually all of these are going to be, with maybe one exception, are all going to be bangers in terms of longevity and projection. And the exception that I am referring to, although I really, really enjoy this fragrance, and people are going to tell you not to get this one, I'm telling you, yes, get it. You'll be fine. You're not going to be... Is there an alternative to this? Yes, there is. This is Abercrombie & Fitch First Instinct Blue. Now, people are going to say, don't get the blue. That's the bad flanker. Get First Instinct. Okay, you know what? I can't argue with that. If you have First Instinct, you don't necessarily have blue. If you don't have First Instinct and you want to get blue, and you want to go for a more watery, sea, lighter, slightly more subdued fragrance, this is the one that you want to go for. Now, this is something that you can't overspray in my estimation. It's very, it's so crisp though. It's so crisp. It is very bright. If you spray 2 or 3 times on you, that's going to be your sweet spot. 4 and 5 sprays tends to be a little bit over much. But if you want to spray 2 or 3 sprays in the morning, and then later in the afternoon you want to give a refresher, feel free to do that. You're not going to choke anybody out by doing that. You're just giving yourself a nice refresher. This again is a heat activated fragrance. You can definitely wear it out in the heat, out in the sun. Sweat doesn't hurt it any. It is not a challenge for this. I find that when I play basketball with this, or I'm doing other activities, sweat just makes me smell it bouncing off my skin in waves. Abercrombie & Fitch First Instinct Blue. Now, this is going to be relatively inexpensive, because the only challenge with this is the longevity. Now, it's not going to get quite the longevity, it's not going to be quite the banger that these other ones are, but it's still highly recommended simply because the scent profile is so pleasant. Again, as most of these fragrances, most of these 5 blue fragrances that I'm talking about today are featuring, this also has an apple note in it along with cardamom. In the floral side, floral and spicy side, you've got lavender and rosemary. It gives you that bright spiciness because of the it's infused with black pepper. You also get a light sweetness here with tonka, and then a nice base of amber and sandalwood. So brilliant formulation, smells so pleasant. This is a great right out of the shower fragrance, And if you spray this on 2 or 3 times right out of the shower, you're going to get a good 4 to 5 hours out of this. If you're going to an activity where you will be sweating, it's going to give you an additional hour or 2 hours of longevity out of this. But the projection is a nice 2 or 3 feet for a couple of hours. So again, all these are what I would consider bangers. I would hesitate to call this a banger. It is slightly challenged when it comes to longevity portion, but it is still extremely pleasant and I love it. Abercrombie & Fitch First Instinct. Well, that's it, guys, for consideration of 5 blue fragrances that will take you into spring and summer. What can blue do for you? Hope you have a better idea of what these blue fragrances can do for you. Again, they can be found at online discounters for relatively inexpensively. You can also find them at your local department store in many cases at a very good rate, very good price as well. All right, guys, thanks so much for stopping by and watching my video on these 5 blue fragrances. Thank you so much for your support, and as always, I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time.